Yo, what's going on, everybody? You're watching Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. Coming up on today's video, we're going to react to what Adrian Wojnarowski had to say about the latest trade rumors that circle around your New York Knicks. He went on to Threads. Somebody asked him a question about what the Knicks are going to do as the trade deadline approaches, and what I thought he had to say was pretty dang interesting. We'll dive into that in a second, but first, I got to make sure everybody watching here is subscribed, because if the Knicks make a move, we are going to make a video on this channel. If you're looking for free, informative, and entertaining content on your New York Knicks every single day, subscribe to the channel and help us get to 30,000 subscribers. We're about 350 away. It's a huge milestone, and I want you to be a part of it. So if you're looking for free Knicks content on YouTube, subscribe right now. All right, this is what Woj had to say. Quote, "The Knicks have been preparing themselves with draft assets and the development of young players to make the kind of big trade necessary to move them into the elite of the Eastern Conference and NBA. I don't think they feel a need to force a trade at the trade deadline, but I do think they are anxious to find that deal by the offseason." And I just kind of want to focus on that last sentence. I don't think they feel a need to make a deal soon. And what that I took away from that is this: no deal is better than a bad deal. I 100% think the New York Knicks need to make a move. If the Knicks seriously want to be a top team in the Eastern Conference, they cannot do it with the roster that they currently have constructed. But I don't want to just trade all the assets we've built up, all the young players we've developed, for a bad deal. No deal is better than a bad deal. But I will say this: the Knicks can't kick the can down the road forever. Some of these assets that the New York Knicks have an expiration date on them. Emmanuel Quickley is going to be a restricted free agent this offseason. You have potentially 4 first-round picks in the 2024 NBA draft. 3 of them are protected. I assume that 2 of them will convey and 2 will roll over. What I mean by that is this: you've already passed up on so many superstars that have been traded in the NBA. And I'm not saying that the Knicks should have traded for all of these guys, but the Cleveland Cavaliers absolutely got better because of Donovan Mitchell. I think Jrue Holiday would have been the perfect piece in the backcourt alongside a guy like Jalen Brunson. He's a veteran, he's a defender, he can play make, and he can go get a tough bucket for you. He's an NBA champion, and he's played really well in the playoffs at times. I don't think Damian Lillard would have been a great fit with Jalen Brunson, but he absolutely would have made your team better. I didn't really want James Harden, but him and the Clippers are starting to click. You turned down a trade this offseason that featured R.J. Barrett, Quentin Grimes, and a couple of first-round picks for Paul George. I believe if you just took out Quentin Grimes and R.J. Barrett and added Paul George into this team, the Knicks would be competing at the top of the East, and Kyrie Irving also got traded. Not saying the Knicks should have traded on for those guys, but these are the players that they've already passed on, which brings me to this point. We can all talk about the Knicks are bracing for that big trade. They stockpiled all these picks. They have 10 tradable first-round picks over the next 7 years. They have 11 tradable second-round picks. They have an $18 million expiring contract in Evan Fournier, and they have middling salary after middling salary. But you can't trade for someone who is not available, and that is somewhat the problem with Leon Rose's plan to resurrect the New York Knicks. I can't trade for player A if the team doesn't want to trade him. You can't force the team to trade with you. This ain't 2K. And right now, I'm not sure that guy is going to become available prior to the 2024 NBA trade deadline, which is concerning because it almost seems like if the Knicks don't make a trade, they are who we thought they were, which is at most a second-round exit in the Eastern Conference, and the floor is a play-in team. I think this team is solid. I think they have a lot of good pieces. But at the end of the day, they are not built in a way where they can compete with the top teams in the East. And if they don't make that trade, it almost just seems like you're punting on this season. Do you think the Knicks need to make a trade? Put on your GM cap, sit in the seat of Leon Rose, and let me know what you think. You could say, Marsh, it's only been about 25 games into the season. Let's relax. Let's see what the players are going to do and how they start to gel as the season goes on. I want to hear from you, though. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Do the Knicks need to make a trade? Coming up next, I want to get to the second half of the quote from Woj. He mentioned that the Knicks could be trading for a star or stars. I think stars means 2. How are you going to trade for 2 if you can't even trade for 1? Interesting quote coming up from Woj. But first, I got to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, PrizePicks. If you enjoy playing fantasy sports and you want to play daily fantasy sports, do it with the #1 daily fantasy sports app in North America, PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the promo code CLNS, and PrizePicks will match your initial deposit up to $100. It's Picksmas with PrizePicks, and they're giving out 12 days of brand new promos. Sign in each day to see what's in store. On the first day of Picksmas, all eyes are on Rudy Gobert. Get a payout boost on your promo tabs as soon as he records a block in Thursday's game against the Mavericks. New from PrizePicks is Demons and Goblins. You can now make it easier or harder to win and win up to 100 times your money with Demons picks. Demons are a little wild. They're statistically harder to win, but the entry qualifies for higher payouts up to 100 times your money. Or you could go with a Goblin. Goblins love the green. They're statistically easier to win, but come with lower payout multipliers. PrizePicks is the #1 way to play daily fantasy sports, and you should get into it. And some of the plays that I'm looking at for this slate of Sunday's games are these as follow. You can roll with my picks or you can fade my picks, but if you're going to play daily fantasy sports, do it with our proud sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. Because we love you so much, we'll make all that information clickable down in the comments and description of today's show. All righty, let's get into it. Adrian Wojnarowski, we told you what he said, but I thought what he had to say a little bit later was a little bit more interesting, especially when it comes to what the Knicks may be doing maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months from now. He said this: there's a ceiling on this current roster. Although it is no small accomplishment given the last few decades in New York to have constructed a consistent playoff team, but yes, they need to make the next step, and they've positioned themselves well to do so once another star or stars become available for a trade. Adrian Wojnarowski is just a mouthpiece for Leon Rose. If you didn't know, which you absolutely do at this point, Leon Rose was the head of the basketball division at the CAA agency. Who is Adrian Wojnarowski repped by? CAA. So whatever Leon Rose, who hasn't spoken to the Knicks media directly in 26 months now, whatever he wants to tell Knicks fans, he just tells Woj. And then Woj tells me, and then I tell you guys. That's how it works. I will say this. The Knicks cannot afford a panic move. And it kind of goes back to the point that we mentioned earlier in the show. No trade is better than a bad trade. Right now, there's not a lot of great players and needle movers that are going to be available when the February trade deadline gets here. The Knicks already have their margin improvers. They have Quentin Grimes. They have Josh Hart. They have Dante DiVincenzo. They have Mitchell Robinson. They have Isaiah Hartenstein. They need a needle mover. I'm just not sure that guy is out there. Here are some players that are potentially going to be on the trade block when that trade deadline gets closer. I think DeMar DeRozan as well as Zach LaVine are two guys that could potentially be traded out of Chicago. Chicago is in a bad spot. But do either of these players take the Knicks from a first-round exit or a second-round exit to a conference finals appearance? I'm not quite sure. The Detroit Pistons have lost 27 games in a row at this point, it seems like. I think it's actually only 22. But it's going to get ugly and uglier in Detroit. And Bojan Bogdanovic is a veteran. He's on an expiring deal. Maybe Detroit tries to get some assets back for him. But how much better does Bojan Bogdanovic make you? Jonathan Kuminga is in a weird spot right now in Golden State with Draymond Green suspended indefinitely. Maybe now they hold on to him and he becomes their starting power forward of the future. But like the prior three guys, Jonathan Kuminga ain't helping you win a ring this year. And Pascal Siakam's on the trade block, as well as OG Anunoby. But the thing is, the New York Knicks are suing the Toronto Raptors for an employee for the Knicks going to the Raptors and sharing their independent files. So I don't think Masai Ujiri is going to make a trade with James Dolan as he is currently taking them to court. A guy that I actually would somewhat be interested in, though, is Jerami Grant. I know that there's this stigma around Jerami Grant that he's actually not a good basketball player. And I don't think that's true at all. I could not be further from the truth. I think he's a good, effective winning player. I just think the fit is a little bit clunky for the Knicks because he's a tweener. He's not really a 4, and he's not really a 3, and you already have Julius Randle, but I think he's a better basketball player than R.J. Barrett, but I don't love the contract that he got in NBA free agency. We told you guys a couple of weeks ago that the Knicks checked in on Karl-Anthony Towns. They did not make an offer. And with the Timberwolves playing like one of the best teams in the Western Conference, I actually don't think Towns is going to be on the move anytime soon. What about Luke Kennard? The Memphis Grizzlies are in a weird spot right now. They have been awful to start this year. I don't think Kennard makes you an elite team, but he brings you a little bit of juice on the offensive end. Right now, the Knicks are extremely streaky when it comes to shooting from downtown. Kennard's one of the best in the league there, so he could help you, I guess, improve on the margins in that department. But he ain't making you a franchise, NBA Finals contender. And you got Rui Hachimura from the Los Angeles Lakers. I like Rui, but you could have had him last year for a pair of second-round picks and Kendrick Nunn. Now the Lakers are probably going to want a first-round pick and a young player for him. So you could have had him a lot cheaper, and I'm not sure how much better he makes this team. Moral of the story, a trade for a superstar only comes if that superstar wants to be traded. And I don't see any superstar in the league right now forcing their way out of a current situation. We just showed you 10 guys that could potentially be on the move. Maybe there's someone out there that I did not mention. Who do you want the Knicks to trade for? I wish it would have been Donovan Mitchell. Wish it would have been Paul George. We'll see what Leon Rose does over the next 12 months because that might just decide his future as the head of basketball operations for the Knicks. As always, I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you for tuning in to Knicks Now by Chat Sports. If you haven't yet, give me a follow over on Twitter. We could chop it up over there. We'll see you later. Let's go Knicks.